What's up, guys? Welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host, Caleb. If you want to support me, you can now follow me on Patreon. Not only is it the best way to support the channel, but additionally, you'll get more say in what decks I cover. Special shout out to my high contributing patrons. Newsome, you rock. Now, let's get into today's video talking about the most powerful commanders we've gotten from 2023. Now, this is going to be a top 15 ranking because, it seemed a little short to make it a top 10 when we've gotten so many cracked commanders this year, and this list will be from a casual standpoint, so don't get too bent out of shape if you see something that's seeing a lot of CEDH play, not make it as high on the list as you expected to. Now, let's get on to the top 15, and we're going to kick it off with number 15, which is going to be Sovereign Okonek. This guy's extremely explosive, especially if you take it the 1/1 counter route. All we need to do, get a couple counters on our creatures, attack, and then we're going to start doubling those 1/1 counters. That's another thing that makes this commander so powerful, is it's on attack. It doesn't have to connect, you don't have to deal combat damage, all you have to do is attack with your 4-cost commander with Ward 2, and you're getting the doubling effect. From there, you can play additional 1/1 counter doublers like Colonial Hydra. There's a ton of them. Doubling 1/1 counters is probably one of the easiest things to do in Magic, and then you're just quadrupling the amount of counters you're putting on all your creatures, and then it's not insane to see 100 power creatures in this deck one-shotting opponents. So that's why this is going to make the list at number 15. Now, moving on, we have Hakbal. And now I think Hakbal's just generically good. All you have to do is shove it with a lot of Merfolks, and it's going to do the thing very well. But if you take this in the clone route, it's very oppressive. All you have to do is get multiple copies of Hakbal. You get to explore that much more. Whenever you attack, you get to draw additional cards while putting lands into play. It's just very efficient. It's very easy to get to the cards that you need because of that explorability. And then at the same time, yes, it's an attack trigger, but he's very small, right? But because of the explore mechanic, Hakbal gets very big very quickly. It's very low to the ground. And again, this is only a 4-cost commander, comes down early, and you start generating a ton of value. Something Simic's very good at, right? So that's why this guy's going to make number 14. Now, moving on, this one's kind of a debate. I don't know whether to put Callix or Anakthea at 13 and Calix at 12, or, so these two might be interchangeable, and this is why. Calix is very amazing, very fast. All you have to do is start creating token copies of your anointed processions, but it is a combat damage trigger, so you have to get in, but that's not going to be very hard because there's a lot of aura effects that just give him Forest Walk, make him unblockable, give him protection from all colors, so connecting is going to be pretty easy, but you do need additional setup. This guy can get completely out of control too. All you need to do, again, start doubling up on those anointed processions, and then out of nowhere, you've created over 120 angels from your Sigil of the Empty Throne, and it just gets insane from there. Now, Anakthea, on the other hand, you get additional colors. It takes a little more setup because you do need mill, but graveyard synergies are very resilient at the same time. Additionally, something that Anakthea does that Calix doesn't is you get to cheat the mana cost of your enchantments. So you get to play some super busted enchantments that you don't have to cast. You just mill them to the graveyard, reanimate them, and boom, you get super broken effects. The only thing is, like I said, this is very reliant on you getting those cards into the graveyard. Other than that, even if you have 5 mana to cast Anakthea, it's not even worth it. So this is heavily reliant on getting the right pieces in the graveyard. But if you get it there, again, this deck is extremely oppressive and can start one-shotting opponents very quickly, especially when you start doubling all your creatures' powers with a natural growth. That's another thing this deck does that Calix doesn't, is now your anointed processions, instead of being an enchantment that can't attack, it's a 3/3 that can attack that has menace. So now whenever you're creating a ton of those anointed processions, they're 3/3 bodies that can get in for lethal. So that's another reason why I think Anakthea is probably a little bit above of Calix, but I'm down to be persuaded in the comments down below. Moving on, we have the War Doctor, and this guy's just a 1-card infinite combo in the command zone, or not infinite, but pseudo infinite, right? You can build it in a way because you do get a companion that if you're able to give that companion Cascade, you cast the companion, you can cascade through your entire library, and each one of those will trigger individually because of the way the cascade mechanic works. You have to flip the top, see if it's castable, and if it's not, you flip it again. So each cascade trigger, or each time you're looking for that card to cast with Cascade, is an individual trigger with the War Doctor. So you can instantly play something like K9, give it Cascade with the TARDIS, and then cascade through your entire library, fail to find, and easily start one-shotting people with the War Doctor. Now, built fairly, this guy's just pretty fun, but I don't see much builds of people building him the fair way. I just see this guy as an extreme combo deck. When he enters the battlefield, if they do the thing, you're just going to get one-shot by an extremely massive War Doctor. So, yes, super fun, super powerful. Let's move on. The next one we're going to talk about is the Master Multiplied. This guy's kind of the win con in the command zone. It's insanely good. All you need is haste and extra combats. If you don't have haste and extra combats, it might take a little more to get there, and the strategy is kind of fragile. But if you're able to get haste, one attack with him, and then you're able to go off from there. Throw in a little bit of extra combat steps and you're going to be unstoppable. All you have to do is attack 1, 2, 3, I think it's 4 combat steps, kills the entire table. No, it's 3. I think 3 combat steps kills the entire table. So that's why this guy's going to make it this high on the list. It's very glass cannony, but also very hard to stop if you don't hold up any interaction. And I guarantee you they're just waiting with haste on the table for you to be open, and then boom, the game's over from there. Moving on to number 9, we have Shalai Halar. And these guys are just incredibly hard to build a synergistic deck with without accidentally including a few infinite combos. So that's why they kind of get this ranking. You gotta weigh, hey, do I counter that Colonial Hydra that I'm gonna be dead to in a couple turns, or do I wait for them to drop their infinite combo? And then on top of that, they're constantly dropping lethal threats while burning you, and again, you have to worry about that infinite combo. So these two are just incredibly combat focused while having a way to deal damage straight to your face, and then additionally, you've got to worry about them comboing off out of nowhere. It's just very hard to deal with if these commanders hit the battlefield. So you kind of just got to make sure they don't hit the battlefield to beat this deck, and if you get there, then you're in a good spot. Moving on to number 8, we're going to be talking about Souran the Dark Lord. And guys, let's make no mistake, this guy has hexproof. No one's paying that ward cost. I mean, you can theoretically, but the fact that they have to shoot themselves in the foot to hurt your game plan is incredibly busted. And then in Grixis, we just have a ton of ways to throw him in the graveyard and reanimate him after that. The other thing that makes this guy busted is he just makes a massive body, and then again in Grixis, where we have a ton of ways to abuse Power Matters cards, it's going to be very easy to equip that giant orc army with the Reaver Cleaver and then start generating a ton of treasure tokens to run away with the game. We can even use stuff like Disciple of Bullets to draw a ton of cards. There's no fair ways to build this guy. I've even built a 9 NAZGûL deck where, again, that just results in you drawing your entire library at an insane rate while you're shoving 2020 NAZGûL on the battlefield. So again, this guy's just an incredible enabler in the command zone, draws you a ton of cards. You don't even need the 9 NAZGûL because all you have to do is connect with that orc army to get the ring tempting effect, and then again, you have some insane card advantage in the command zone. You have Grixis, you have access to your graveyard, so the cards you're discarding may as well just be throwing those to your second hand, and then again, we can include stuff like Underworld Breach to get all that back. It's just an incredibly powerful commander. There's so many ways to take it, and again, they're all busted. Moving on to number 7, this might shock a couple people, but we're going to be talking about Helio. Now, if you've ever let this guy flip and you've had the sad experience of being on the other side of the table, I'm pretty sure you just lost the game. This is what's happened to me every time I've played against this card. It's just incredibly busted. They flip it, they windfall, and then from there, they just find a way to win the game. There's a lot of ways they can take this. They can take it the Aetherflux Reservoir route. They can approach the second Sun you out of nowhere. There's just a lot of ways to win the game once you have an entire wheel effect, but there's also a third option. They could just wheel again, and then from there, you know they're playing all the colorless mana rocks, so they're going to take a 30-minute turn on everybody's turn. So on top of that, they're just getting insane value. So even if they don't win the game from there, they're going to untap and they're going to be ahead of everybody at the table because, again, they just took effectively 3 turns and they're going to just smash everybody with an insane amount of value. Now, moving on, we have Nixilis, and this guy does have a 1-card infinite combo with All Will Be One. You just start doubling the counters, you exile, or yeah, you exile your entire library, but in doing that, you're going to machine gun everybody to death. Another thing this guy does is just generate a ton of card advantage. The fact that you can just start pinging your opponents and then drawing a ton of cards or exiling them and with the ability to cast them is incredibly powerful. Another thing people don't really talk about with this guy is how massive he gets and how quick it happens. I mean, this guy's smacking you for 10 damage out of nowhere and you're like, when did he get that big? So again, this guy's got everything you need: card advantage, a massive body to just start killing your opponents, and he's got a 1-card infinite combo. So like I said, a lot of power there. Moving on to number 5, this might be a hot take, but we're going to end up with Galadriel. It's very easy to just drop the creature, get ramp, card advantage. You even get the ability to buff your entire board state. Something people don't realize is scry 2 draw a card is effectively like drawing 2 cards, right? You look at the top 2, those are 2 lands, bottom them, you draw a card. It rifles you through your deck extremely efficiently and fast. Now, when we start throwing cards like Coma in the deck, now we're going to get that trigger on each of our opponents' upkeep, so we can effectively dig through 12 cards of our library every single turn rotation. Now, let that go on for too long, we'll just change up the strategy, right? Now instead of digging, we're buffing our entire board state up. So now we're adding 4 power to the board every turn rotation. You can't let that go on for very long before you just have lethal on board and you start killing people. The other thing you add in is Hardened Scales. You can add in Lae'zel. There's a lot of cards that just say, hey, throw an extra counter on there whenever you throw a counter on a creature. So now again, you're adding 8 power to the board instead of just 4. Again, that's just going to be lethal. Danny Pink is also insane in this deck. I just thought I'd point him out here. You just go ahead and get the 1/1 counter trigger, and then you're going to draw cards equal to the amount of creatures on the battlefield. And you can do that again on everybody's upkeep. It's kind of busted. Even the elf ball version of this girl is really broken. So again, that's why she's going to be at our top 5 spot. Our number 4 spot is going to go to Will. This guy's incredibly busted. One of the most broken things you can do in Commander is reduce the cost of your spells, and this guy just does it incredibly efficiently. All you do, spend 1 mana, gain 6 life, approach to the second sun, stroke of genius, and you've won the game after you cast approach for the second time. Another thing this guy just has insane synergy with is X spells in general. There's a lot of X spells that just say, hey, create this many creatures, and this guy can do that equal to the amount of life he gained. Additionally, you can start tapping and untapping this guy, tapping him again, and all of that's going to stack. So it's not very hard to see why this guy's busted, and if left alone on the battlefield, you will just end up winning the game. Now, moving on to number 3, this is not going to surprise anybody. We have Rowan. This girl's incredibly busted for the same reason, but a little more abusable because we do have access to black and red. It's very easy to slam a wall of blood, go ahead and pay as much life as you want, and then you easily Torment of Hellfire into the win. There's also stuff like Adnaz if you want to get really into this, and since you're running X spells, your cost is going to be really low, so you can easily just Adnaz, find your Hellfire, win the game. This girl, again, if you untap with her, you probably have a good shot of winning that turn. Moving on to number 2, we have Etali, and this guy's, I don't know if you have ever played against Etali, but this guy's oppressive, okay? You cast him, all they have to do is get to 7 mana, which they can do very efficiently in Gruul. Then they cast him, and then you have to ask yourself, man, if I kill him, he's just going to cast him again, and we got to go through all that again. I don't want to go through that again. And then the whole deck is just based around creating tokens of him, blinking him any way they can, and just getting as many Etali triggers as possible. You wish they would start flipping this guy and start doming people for lethal. At least then you might have a shot. This guy, again, incredibly oppressive to play against and just really powerful all around. Now, let's get into our number 1 spot. We have a Traxa the Grand Unifier. And one of the things that led me to making this decision is 9 times out of 10, when you see an ETB this busted, it says if you cast a spell. Yeah, they forgot that phrase with a Traxa. A Traxa you can just slam, Displacer Kitten, and just start blinking her until you find your combo piece and win. I've never played against a fair Traxa deck. They're just all combo, win. You know, I guess if you're like, it's a value Traxa deck, I don't believe him. Don't believe that guy. No. There is no value Traxa deck. Traxa just hits the battlefield, they blink them to oblivion, and then they will find their way to win from there. Even if it's like kind of a funny, kooky way to win, they just combo and win from there. Traxa resolves, they've got a good shot of winning the game, and if they don't, they've got a giant beater that has lifelink, vigilance, all the keywords. They got everything on it, and like I said, Traxa is just one of those very oppressive decks. It's even seeing a lot of play in CEDH. Etali seeing some play in CEDH too, but again, the fact that we have 4 colors here as opposed to 2 colors there, it just led me to choosing Traxa because, again, that's probably one of the most, if not the most powerful commander we have gotten this year. I'm really curious to see what you guys think about this list down in the comments down below. If you think a commander should be higher, if you think a commander should be lower, if you wonder why a commander didn't make it on the list, I'm very curious to see what you guys think of this video. I know I'm going to see Talion, but honestly, Talion is just kind of busted in CEDH because, again, the very low cost cards, and then you just drain everybody, and a lot of people are paying their life in CEDH, so that's kind of why Talion didn't make the list, but hey, we'll give her an honorable mention at the end of the video, so there we go there. Without further, one more question, guys. I'm really curious to see what your most powerful deck is you've built this year. It doesn't have to be from 2023, but again, I'm just a curious guy. Let me know what your most powerful deck is you made this year, and just let me know how you made your playgroup cry. Without further ado, I would like to thank my patrons. Newsome, Excessum, Chicken Salad, you guys are amazing. You keep the channel going, as well as all my other patrons. If you guys want to become a part of the weekly voted deck tech, becoming a patron is a solid way to do that, and the link to the description will be in the description down below. Yes, link to the Patreon in the description. I knew I messed that up somehow. Okay, anyway, without further ado, guys, I hope this helped you in your deck building endeavors, and I will see you in the next one.